So in this super quick video, I'll show you how you can use a numerical model in Whitson Plus for a Refrac study extremely quickly, hopefully less than 5 minutes. The ingredients that you need to know is you need to have a history match numerical model of a well that you would like to evaluate a potential refrac on. And you need to know the key drivers behind the potential uplift from the new refrac. You know, the old completion and the new completion will be different in two ways. It will be primarily driven by potentially an increase in entry points. There will be more fractures. And the volume of both proppant and fluid pump typically is larger. So you should also expect to create a larger XF and a larger HF. And those numbers would allow you to also contact new rock, new pore volume. So there will be a combination of both acceleration of production from already contacted rock, and it will be an increase of EUR from the fact that you're contacting new pore volume. And the combination of those two will define your refrac potential. So if I go into Whitson Plus here, I have a history match and a forecast out for 10 years. I'd like to go in and add a little scenario, and I would like to call this, a new refrac, and I would like to save it. What the software does then is that it takes the case that I already created, copies all the inputs, and I have my scenario right here. And then I need to know the drivers. As I mentioned, when you are refractoring a well, you typically increase the number of entry points. So let's say in this scenario, I would go in and say, okay, the refrac, I would expect 250 fracs, but I also know that the fracture half length and the fracture height potentially would increase. Where do I get this information from? Well, you can get it from geomechanical modeling or from like field studies, but the most practical one would be to go in history match a new well of modern vintage and see what kind of XFs am I actually getting from that. So if I did this in this case, and let's say I got a little bit higher XFs, and I also might have some larger H in this scenario, just imaginary scenario right here, of course. Click save, and then I run this case, and this would give me the total EOR as if this well was produced like this from the get-go. And going back to my slide here, the delta between these two is the refrac potential. So if you wanted to screen the field, the larger this potential difference would be, the better candidate for refrac the well itself would be. And then you could think about potentially superposing them in time if you'd like to. And you could take these into, for instance, a comparison plot and just compare the delta between these different cases, and as I mentioned, potentially superpose them in time if you need the rate time data for any.